All right, so we gonna get into a topic for y'all on this one off, man. And we gonna start off straight to the question, man. If y'all been paying attention to us as you should, go back and listen to an episode. We got into the conversation of hypersensitivity, and we gonna broaden it and have a full on convo about it, man. So what I wanted to do first was just kind of go around and see what y'all's definition of hypersensitivity was, what that mean to you in today's scope in your day to day life. I'll start with Rose because Rose brought it up.
I mean, we gotta kind of give it context to like that specific thing we were speaking about because hypersensitivity works in a lot of different ways in a lot of different conversations. But hypersensitivity in that specific thing that we talking about is, I guess, really just damn man. I guess especially for that topic is really thinking and believing that everything is just against you and everything is it doesn't matter what it is, you can find a way specifically to be a victim in a certain sense. To me, like I feel like you can always find a way to where somebody else is wrong, even if it don't have nothing to do with you. You know what I'm saying? Like the I guess we would have to bring up the topic again of like exactly what we were talking about, but that's what I mean about hypersensitivity and like when shit is just not even what you necessarily think it is, but you over analyzing and over internalizing what something is and turning that shit up times 10 and making it a lot further than what it's supposed to be.
Okay. I'll go next. For my version of it, I think hypersensitivity is to the point where you're looking for something to be wrong, right? Like you're not okay with having an overall successful feeling if it's not 100% accurate or you're not getting your way to the extent that you're just trying to find something where it either comes off as you need victimhood to supply you a victory down the road, like to say, oh man, I went through this and this is the struggle that I went through, or similar to what Rose says is everything gets under your skin and you don't know how to just accept life for what it is in that moment and be able to either tough it out or converse it out or live it out. Everything gets to you and you start to have certain feelings. I might even go as far as to say hypersensitivity to me is when you lead with feelings without having a fact to touch bases with.
Uh, I'll piggyback. I was gonna say because I was kind of trying to understand it, but I was gonna say hypersensitivity was kind of like overly putting an emphasis highly on emotion versus logic, maybe. Um, I feel like hypersensitivity is more emotion based. That's but that's what I would say in I guess in just an overview. I would just say it's more so emotion based. Like it's overly emotion towards something. Maybe I feel like victimhood is a difference, is a separation from hypersensitivity. That's why like when y'all both were saying, I was kind of a little confused. I would think victimhood or victim blaming is different from hypersensitivity.
In my definition of it, I think the hypersensitivity led to some victimhood, not all. There's certain times where you being hypersensitive made you the victim in your story, right? Like it wasn't, and I'm not saying that for certain situations where you might have been wrong or you might have been wronged or somebody did something wrong to you. You were seeking something that turned you into a victim, even though that wasn't. It didn't need to go that far, and what got you to that victimhood was you being hypersensitive in the first place.
Mm, yeah, I would say it's just like a over awareness of emotions or feelings. Um, which I don't necessarily know if it's a bad thing outright. It's just about if you're able to
It's
regulate
not.
it. Yeah, like it's just about if you're able to regulate it or not. Um, but I think y'all might be conflating hypersensitive or not conflating it, but maybe nah, yeah, kind of conflating it. Like hypersensitivity with like I guess like a victim mentality or something.
By
Nah, because
definition,
victimhood and hypersensitivity, they overlap at some points. It's almost like a Venn diagram where there's certain points where these things can overlap, but they don't mean the same exact thing. So
Right.
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
in that little thing in the middle of the circle of the Venn diagram, there are
Mhm.
points where victimhood and hypersensitivity meet, where they both create the same type of deal. I'll say that.
Because just that's why I
Okay.
asked for
I
everyone's
agree with that.
version of it first. Because at least by dictionary definition, it says a tendency to be easily hurt, worried, or offended. And in quotations, hypersensitivity to criticism. Right. So it doesn't matter what it is. You have a tendency to be consistently bothered, no matter,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
there's nothing more to it. So with that, do y'all believe we have a hypersensitivity issue overall in today's culture, society, your lifestyle, people that are around you, what you see doesn't always have to be internet, but just like day-to-day conversations as well? Do y'all believe we have a strong do we have an abundance of hypersensitivity, or do you think it's just something that tends to come up in certain moments?
I think it come up in certain moments because again, it is, I would say, experience driven. Um, so yeah, I think yeah, I'm trying to think of how I wanted to word that, but I don't think it's always just something that's always like an abundance thing. I think it's certain moments and certain topics. Or
Elaborate on the experience driven part for me.
because like being hypersensitive to something, it may like you may have experienced something to create that hypersensitivity towards it.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mhm.
that's what I would say. Like that's what, to me, that's what probably drives the hypersensitivity. Because think about it, we're all sensitive to things. What would cause you for it to reach another level of that sensitivity? I would think you would have to experience something for it to go further, to even to have either an extra heightened sensitivity to something. That's what I would think. Like for the most part, at least that's how I would look at hypersensitivity. Because I'm trying to think of stuff like I'm potentially hypersensitive to, and I'm thinking it would be
Mm-hmm.
a lot more so to something more so experience driven than just an outright something that's said out of a generality, maybe.
But before the other two go, I'm gonna ask you another question for what you just said. Do you feel that hypersensitivity coming from experience is the norm in the way that people react to things during conversations of like whatever the hit topic is, or what they necessarily go through when
Not
they're displaying
always.
it?
Not always,
Okay.
because one, some people project. Some people are projecting what others experience, which is not even a lived experience. They're projecting what they're hearing or what's being told to them, not a true outright experienced thing. Um, what was the second question or second piece?
No, that was a question.
Oh, okay.
Do you believe it's more so from what you've experienced based on their experience to
Okay, well,
why they
yeah.
have a reaction to that, or as opposed to what you kind of answer is like, are they almost living vicariously
Yeah, a
through
lot of people are living
somebody
vicariously.
else's?
Yeah, a
Okay.
lot of hypersensitivity of is to the world, and then is projections based off of that world from a lot of people. I believe you do have lived experience. At least that's, I would say this. My hypersensitivity to things comes through lived experience. I can't speak for everyone else, but I do know in conversation with people, a lot of it is contrived through projection of, and because if you ask them, well, have you experienced this, did it XYZ? Most of the time, what I'm talking to people about, they'll give me a no. So then it's like, well, where is this coming from? Oh, well, I heard or someone said. You fall into a different kind of slope there because it's like,
Hmm.
well, there is some truth to what you're hearing and saying, especially if we can pull examples. But it's also a negation because what if I can tell you I didn't experience that?
Okay.
Like, because that's
Fair
where the
enough.
opinions are coming from.
Fair enough. Nick, going back to the first question, because I asked to have two additional off of his. Going back to the first question, what you got?
I don't know if it's I don't think everyone is generally hypersensitive. I think most people don't have a lot of time or care to like partake in the conversations most of the time. I think the people that do are paying more attention, and they may come across as hypersensitive because they're more in tune with whatever the conversation is. But in general, I don't think most people are running around just like hyper bothered about everything that's going on.
Okay.
Most people are apathetic.
Okay. So for the apathetic people, are you saying that typically those that are apathetic aren't participating just in general, other than what they got going on with themselves?
Yeah, most of the time. But I think that's the
Okay.
general. Like I think the hypersensitivity piece is like a small portion of the larger. You know what I'm
So
saying?
you think they're more outliers, the hypersensitive? Because I'm not asking necessarily even just for people, just the idea of hypersensitivity when you
Hmm.
maneuver. You think that's more of an outlier situation?
It like they like say that again.
Like, so for hypersensitivity as an idea or an action, I may not necessarily be applying it to people specifically, like just individuals, just the hypersensitivity by definition, the actions behind it, what we've seen. Do you feel that usually comes up in more outlier situations in the dealings that you've had moving
Yeah.
around, or do you think it's more of a general that's
Nah,
applied to
yeah,
functions?
yeah, no, I think some outlier shit for me at least, because it's like I don't necessarily I don't come across people that's like that turned up that often. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And the only time I do is if I'm in a space where I know that's gonna be the case, like a political space or something like that, where it's like I know y'all are actively tapping into this, so I know you're looking for those tickers. But like in a general day to day, most folks is just like, I got what I got going on, tunnel vision to keep it pushing.
Do you think the apathy piece comes from the numbness to hypersensitivity?
No, I think the apathy piece comes from getting beat up every day by the world. And it gets to a point where like you get hope beat out you. And now you at a point where you just like I don't have time to even put no energy towards that.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I
Okay.
think a little bit different. I love what you said, Nick. I have a different kind of framing of it.
Speak to it.
Hypersensitivity, and just in my framing, hypersensitivity is just passion in a sense, isn't it? It's just it's a negative driven based on the definition that was given here. Is a
Hmm.
sense of a negative driving force of passion. It's the negative stimuli of passion, I would say,
Um,
in a
a
way. When you
tendency
say
to be easily hurt, worried, or offended is the
about
short
a, and
version
that's why
from
I
Oxford
say,
Dictionary.
and that's why I went to mine when you asked the question, like, is it in abundance or is it about certain things? When you're hypersensitive about a certain thing, isn't it, wouldn't that be because you're passionate about that thing
Because
in a way?
I, it could be because it's by definition, to an extent, it's like an
A-
exaggerated response, right?
and you
So,
gotta think, and that's why I would say and that's why I'm saying that to Nick's point of apathy of, well, and that's what I'm saying. Well, how I'm looking at it, hypersensitivity is a subset or synonym in a way of being highly passionate. A lot of people don't care about certain topics. So when you do get a topic that they really care about, yeah, but guess what? You care about that topic in the opposite manner that they do. So
so,
yeah,
so that
now they're gonna
are you saying that apathy comes from caring about a topic in the opposite way? Is that what you're saying?
I'm talking about hypersensitivity. I'm saying hypersensitivity. Wait, uh,
To Nick's point, I'm trying to make
in a
sure I understood.
way, I would say that
Okay.
the apathy is because I mean everybody has apathy towards topics here or there. If just because I worry about this topic less doesn't necessarily mean I don't care about it. It just it's not in my pecking order or their pecking
Okay.
order. I think, and it
Okay.
just is where you're talking to someone where this topic that someone would say you're hypersensitive about, it's way up in your pecking order versus the person you're talking to.
Fair enough. And and so I wanted to ask at first just to get general, because I know it's difficult to kind of speak to it, but I wanted to get y'all's general definition first before asking y'all, do y'all have examples? Right. So instead of leaning off of the examples, do y'all have examples of what might appear to be hypersensitive in your world versus people handling things normal? Because I know a lot of it might be based, or a lot of times we're basing things off of major social issues or internet talk. Seems to be the most that comes across my desk, right?
Mhm.
So whatever conversations happening on the internet, which is usually something under the umbrella of a movement or something under the umbrella of a new idea that's not the same, or pushing something different than what the culture typically is of whatever it may be, like
Mhm.
evolving as a people, trying to be more free thinking, trying to be more progressive, if you will, or trying to hold on to certain standards, foundations, whatever, either which way, right?
Mhm.
That's the way it comes across to me. So do y'all, maybe it might be different for y'all, do you have examples of what hypersensitivity looks like, or when you feel like people are being hypersensitive?
Yeah, the MAGA folks be hypersensitive to criticism. That's my example, my lived
MAGA
example.
folks hypersensitive to criticism. Leaving it general for those that are listening, we just understand that if a hit dog hollers, that's on you. So leaving it when you say that they're hypersensitive, how do you how so?
Repeat that one more time.
When you say that the MAGA folks are hypersensitive, how so from your purview?
They don't handle it well. Like, so any criticism levied is not addressed, considered whatsoever. It's automatically deemed as an attack. And that's being easily bothered, easily offended by, and they don't even like take into account whether it could be true, couldn't be true, whatever. It's like the minute the criticism is there, it's like, oh, but what about you're not it.
You don't believe that it's like that for most political shit, regardless?
Depends on who you're talking to. I think today is more in that, is more skewed that way because shit is so polarized right now. But I think like in the in the everyday, like when you actually sit down and like have a conversation with somebody that's looking to have a conversation with you, I don't think it's that stratified.
I would say that's a great example too, because especially when we talking about, even in my definition, right? MAGA folks. It's not even. It's not even when they get mad because they're passionate about the stuff that Donald Trump is saying and doing. Like they're passionate about it, even in the negative shit, even how
Yeah.
bad, even how it affects them. You know what I'm saying? Like that would say that's a great example. That's a good example because I was trying. My example was going to be something silly. I'm gonna be honest. I was going to say like
Say it.
LeBron stands. Like that's a hypersensitivity. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that was the first, like literally that's the first thing I thought of as an example of the
Talk
sport
about
of
Rose.
basketball. I'm no, I don't think Rose is a Bron is, but that's a hypersensitivity because you bring up any criticism on LeBron of like finals. First thing they say, oh, went to the finals 10 straight time. What was your record? It was losing. You lost more than you won. They take that personally. Uh,
Yeah.
Synonymous with a MAGA person, when you say fuck MAGA, they take that personally. They feel like you're
Mhm.
attacking them. So yeah, that's a so, but yeah, that was my example. Was gonna be
So
like
I think
Bron.
I just start wilding when nothing is based is and there's nothing rooted in fact. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
Right.
saying? Like if we gonna talk, if you talk facts, then you know it's easier to kill off hypersensitivity. Now, when you start talking about political shit, that's why when he said that, I don't believe that at all, because when you talk about something that people believe in that they don't even necessarily do enough research on and they just believe what people are telling them, hell yeah, you're gonna be hypersensitive. Because when, especially when the Kamala shit was going on, I'm not trying to just bring her up in a negative connotation or a negative way. When you ask them what the fuck she doing or what the fuck was going on, it was, doesn't matter. It's not him. And niggas that get mad when you start bringing up certain shit and
that's
certain
right.
very specific things on another side, and it's just like, all right, well, hold on, let's try to bring facts together, and then maybe we could try to figure out somewhere in the middle of, all right, yeah, it could still be fuck him, but what if she ain't shit either? We don't have to get hypersensitive about the situation. Let's just find somewhere where we can have some facts in the room, and you ain't got to get me. I know that it's political and it's almost like religion of like What you believe in is what the fuck you believe in, and you ain't trying to move off that shit. And I get that.
Mm-hmm.
Hypersensitivity comes in when I just think you're overly emotional about what the fuck you talking about and may not have all the facts about what you tell. You could be passionate. It's one thing to be passionate. It's another thing to be like, just because I don't agree with you and I make a point against what you're saying, you think it's a personal attack on you. That is hypersensitivity to me. You're being hypersensitive because you're not even listening to what I'm saying. You just hear the disagreement part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And with all three of y'all's points, because I think it's beautiful that y'all gave different answers, and it kind of leads me to this question. Nick and Ev, what y'all presented is just kind of like aspects of how life goes on, and it tied into me from what I'm understanding to Rose's point. While I might agree with you, Nick, that the amount of hypersensitive people may not be as big as just the general population, because I even think some of the apathetic people might be more on the extreme side as well, right?
Fair. That's
They
fair.
some of them might be apathetic because they're tired of hypersensitive shit, so they're just done with everything
Mhm.
altogether. I don't want to do nothing. Where I think there's still a certain group in the middle, but I also think that section of apathy is in itself its own hypersensitivity because you don't want anything to do with anything.
Yeah,
So
that's a good point.
combining it to what Rose said, do y'all feel like the amount of hypersensitivity those smaller groups have portrayed has now permeated and possibly taken over day-to-day
Social
life
media.
just for the standard person?
Yeah, social media. Fried it for everybody.
Okay.
It was like
Okay.
whatever it is that you decide to tap in with is gonna be fed to you every single day, all day long. And if you don't take time to remove yourself from that, you will just continue to go around that revolving door. And the more you do it, the more you find folks that either agree with you or disagree with you, because especially with Buddy running the damn timeline now. So it's like you get to a point where you become hypersensitive to the shit because that's all you looking at all damn day. And now,
Yeah, you gotta go out and touch fucking grass.
yeah,
That's
you know
what
what I'm
people
saying.
ain't
And
doing no more.
now you don't really like. It's more difficult to hear somebody from another side because you only experience somebody coming from a disagreement with you that's way far out from where you even, you know what I mean, wander in your thought process. So it's like where me and you might have a simple disagreement like in a regular conversation, because I'm so used to dealing with somebody disagreeing with me in the extreme. As soon as I hear the disagreement, I jump all the way to that spot and start going there. And it's like, bro, go back like 7 steps because I didn't say none of that. You know?
Is normality offensive?
What you mean?
Yes.
What you mean?
You just want to you're doing your existence may not necessarily heavily buy in to certain things. You believe in stuff, or you just believe in what you believe in, you doing your day-to-day life, but you don't believe to the extent that somebody else might. Is that offensive? Is normality offensive?
It depends on the topic, but it can be. Because it's like if you it depends on what you're
In
talking
the
about though.
norm, so like in the standard context of today, internet outside, is normality coming across as offensive?
I don't even know what normality is coming across as.
You said it. You said it's
Because
what coming off as a cross offensive?
it is being normal, or normality is just like, I don't have the passion, going to Ev's where I don't have the passion that you do for this. Is that
No, I
offensive
think
these
I
days?
mean one thing I can boil this down to. I mean, I've kind of always had an answer to this. No funny shit. I think there's been so many subsections and so many sub things that have been created. Like there used to be parts of parts of a whole pizza, and there's been so many sectors that have been created, and people have been able to find their communities, even if these communities ain't good, even if they not real, even if they're not rooted in fact. And so, since people can finally, with the internet, since people are able to go and find these communities and these subsectors and sections, it's an echo. You can always go to an echo chamber. It's never somebody coming back to you fighting your fucking thing that you're saying. You just go into the echo chamber. So now that you don't have nothing fighting back against what you're saying, all you hearing is your shit regurgitated all day. So when you finally do hear somebody combating what you saying and challenging what you saying and being like, well, here's some facts, nigga. Read the facts. Oh, well, you got this from here. Oh, well, you got this from the gov spot. Like, yeah, nigga, the gov spot. Bro, you believe that shit? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it be facts right in front of the nigga face. But since you don't want to believe it, it don't work for you. So now we're
Mm.
becoming hypersensitive when we don't want to believe nothing. We live in echo chambers, and we have just found communities to perpetuate our bullshit because what people don't like to do is go do research and go learn and go really search for answers. It's okay to be wrong. I'm wrong all the
Mhm.
fucking time. It's okay to go be wrong and then go get the right answer and then change your opinion. I think another part of it is so much everybody has to just be this one way. If you had that opinion one time, that's who you are. And that's not how human shit is. That's
Yeah.
not what it is.
Yeah.
and
Facts.
and that I think with that segueing off it, I might be of the opinion that hypersensitivity has become an action as opposed to a reaction. There's certain times that people go and seek to deploy their hypersensitivity to something. Kind of like what Rose is saying is like, all right, I said this one time during this timeline. But in the idea of us trying to evolve as a people, you won't let go of that one moment in time as opposed to allowing certain things to happen. So I do think there's certain aspects in hypersensitivity where they go look to find something to be hypersensitive about. It's not like it came across their desktop and is like, oh shit, I can't believe you did that, or let's talk about it, whatever, or just be mad, whichever way you handle it. That hypersensitivity has possibly formed in certain ways where there's people that go outside to go seek opposition to what they are feeling.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm of the opinion
Yeah.
that it started to
I agree
become a
with that.
little bit more weaponized in certain actions. Like you, even for like I think one of my examples would be, um, there were certain people. If we go with the political side, there were certain people that this is your political belief, and then you will go try to find a group of people that don't agree with you just to go start some shit.
That was me. Yeah.
You feel
I'm
me?
I'm I'm one of those. I'm one of those. I'm one of those.
In that
I
moment,
like to
for me,
argue, so I ain't gonna lie. I like to argue, so I'm one of them for sure.
because even amongst the arguing, because where it's short, and for those that are listening, because Nick and I have chopped it about this all the time. He would tell me that, and he will tell you most of the time. It's like, but what do you gain? That was usually my question. Do you
Exercise.
win? Does it add value? And then, because even for the way that you went about it, might have been more for me. I didn't necessarily think it was hypersensitivity necessarily, because
Nah.
you were trying to argue more than conversate. That's probably where I had the pushback personally, right?
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
there's also those people that you go pull up in person to a
Oh yeah.
whole group. You feel me? Like there's certain people that would go pull up in, like, I want to go over here just to see what they would say and what they will do. Why?
Yeah.
What, like, why would you try to go
Yeah.
match hypersensitivity with hypersensitivity, and what do you expect? And that tends to be consistent no matter what the political topic is,
But
because
also get out that
unfortunately,
echo
to an
chamber.
extent, yeah. But even in the echo chamber, I also think, to an extent, everything has become a political belief.
Yes.
There's not much that you could do in your day-to-day life that is not attached to some
Do you
form of political belief, almost in a larger scale, not even
do you
just
Bro, and
the
before
do you
you
echo
think
say
chamber.
that,
that's
Nick, I have literally seen shit where they like shit on Twitter and they be like, girl, the first thing you need to ask him on a date is how do he feel about Meg Thee Stallion? How do he feel about motherfucking President Trump? How do you feel about this? What the fuck do that got to do with
it has a
anything?
lot to do with a lot if
No,
you really thinking
you
about it.
believe that that is deeper rooted in somebody's actual who they are. Just because I feel a way about this particular stance, don't necessarily that mean
Ex-
have nothing to do with who I am as a person.
But the trail of the questions you asked have a theme.
but
So
there's a
if you had
difference.
if you but I'm saying if somebody's asking you, hey, first date, we need to figure out what's your stance on the Tory Lanez Meg situation, what's your
I'm
stance on
getting to
Donald
that.
Trump, what's your stance, that's cool, you could do that, and that's your right to do that. But the 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 through line is they're trying to figure out how you feel about women's rights. and women being protected,
Then why
or
not just ask that?
because these are examples that are real world examples that I can then use. Like, if I sit down and say, yo, how do you feel about da 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 da, you can tell me whatever the fuck. But if I have a real to be like, yeah, how you feel about Tory Lanez and Meg Thee Stallion, something you're probably invested in because you know both of their music, and then you get to going, it's gonna tell me what you think.
But do you think now the same thing that you say, you think any nigga that got sense is not gonna become a chameleon? Because if a woman is asking this question,
You said that has
most of the
sense.
time you know what the fuck they're alluding to. So you're not gonna put
You know,
out your full thing that you
you know what
actually feel.
you know what you're doing right now? You're giving niggas credit for being smart.
I think, well, shit, at least as
And
smart as me.
but
And maybe
well,
No,
what
I
I
I'm
shouldn't
saying
do
also
I'm
say,
saying most people, if you
and maybe
like
I shouldn't do that. But
some
also these conversations should not be political. They're not political. And this goes back to what Ray is saying. These are not political conversations. These are conversations about, most of the time, that people we don't fucking know. We don't know. I mean, we know what we've been told in a fucking document, maybe. We don't know if it's the fucking truth. Now, if you would like to ask a better question of if it's deeper rooted of what you're saying, which is, how do you feel about women's rights? How do you feel about this? Well, you're scaring the niggas off. Number one, you shouldn't be asking that on a fucking first date. Number two,
I don't think that's valid.
that's scaring niggas, man. Come
You know
I
what?
don't
on.
think that should
Can I
scare
chime in?
nobody.
Can
Yeah,
I
go
chime
ahead.
in? I think that could be viewed as the hypersensitive activity, as opposed to what Rose is saying. You asked me my general belief on how I feel about women, as opposed to going straight to a very, very specific topic. We bypass a lot of potential women ideologies, issues, agendas, conversation pieces just to get to this one particular one. If you're going to judge it off of that hyper specific example,
And
everything
you're
that I feel
definitely going to
about
be
women,
waiting on the one wrong thing that I could potentially say and
and that
probably
clears
not
everything else.
let me get out everything that I need to say. That is hypersensitivity.
I mean,
Actually, that is
I
a
don't know,
great
but
example.
I don't know, bro. Cause like if a girl asks me, oh, what do I think about the situation? I'm gonna be like, that nigga's stupid. And he may have done it. And I'm gonna leave it there.
But
Cool.
What
okay,
else?
Now, what if
Like
you
what
start digging deeper?
let's stay there. Let's stay
what
there.
is
Let's
there
stay
to
there
dig deeper
really
in?
quick,
I don't have
because
nothing else for you.
Yeah, but do
because
you
you didn't
really
answer the
think you
question.
did it?
Wait,
Do you really?
no.
It's
Hold on,
possible. It's possible.
Hold on, Rose. Going back to that specific answer, because you said yourself they're trying to figure out through their line of questioning, how do you feel about women? What in your answer that question? Because that's the smart nigga thing that Rose is talking about. You've
Because
learned
the
how to answer the question. You said he was stupid. That didn't
no,
say how do
and
you
I
feel about
also
women.
said and he probably did it. I said nigga's dumb and he probably did it.
Okay.
That's it. That's all I got for you. Like, I
That's all you
think
got.
the answer that would give it away is if I start to being like, it ain't no way the nigga did it. That bitch big as hell. She 5'10". Once you start doing all of that, then it's like, all right, you're showing me
and
something. You taking
and
the
then
mask off.
also with that, they're asking those questions because, as to what all of y'all are saying, giving niggas too much credit, you might have slipped through with that one answer. Let me give you another example. It can be seen as hypersensitivity. It can be, but that's covering the bases. That's what's being done. They're covering the basis of giving different examples potentially of, okay, how do you feel about this? Because this is the thing, we're being subjective because we don't know how people think. They may have some of the same contextual thinkings in that. So it's like, okay, I can see why you got there. Let me check you again here. Which that's a fair thing to see because it's you're doing all your checks and balances on if this is a person I want to pursue.
I don't have an issue with that. I think with both what y'all are saying, if you're asking numerous questions like that, I think, at least for me, I don't want to speak for Rose, I might be more on the side of efficiency. Just ask me how I feel about women, and then we could get to specifics versus asking me numerous specific questions just to try to cover a broad basis that you could have solved with one question. That's
And
me,
that's
right?
that's
But
that's very
But
true.
it goes back. It
but I
goes back
wanted
to
I want
what
to
you
go
were
back.
saying, Ray. It goes back to what you're saying. How everything is political now. So you're
Mhm.
making. You're gonna ask me about something specific when you really want to know the answer to this. You're gonna ask me something specific about something that you probably don't even know everything about either. You're gonna ask me, I might not give the answer that you specifically wanted, and then you're gonna judge me based off the answer that I give, like it's some political or religious shit, and then you're gonna say, "Well, that's who you are as a man," and that's just not what the fuck is going
Well, wait,
on.
hold on,
and
hold on, Ray. Unfortunately, and we got to keep it buck because of who's in office. And I think this is what we missing. Unfortunately, all these conversations that women are bringing, they are fucking tied to politics and religion now. Because guess what? Them asking you on a date, how
That's
do you
if you
feel
make it
about?
personal, yeah.
No,
If you're
Wait,
making it
wait.
personal,
Well,
yeah.
for wait, Rose. Because for women, it is personal now because it's
Okay.
their bodies and stuff involved. Like that. Let's go with these examples, right? If the woman asks you on a date and she's asking you how you feel about Megan Tour, she's asking you how you feel about abuse, nigga. One, she's trying to check a
You scared
balance.
the nigga.
If she, but
But
you
why
could be
did if
scared.
that
That's
scares you?
fine.
But
But
if that
why?
scares you, that's also something that like why is that
Exactly.
something that
No,
runs
that's
you
not
off?
something you ask somebody on a first date, nigga. That is not first date
Okay,
conversation. If
the
you want to
first
get
day,
to a separate part, that is not first date conversation. But
But
continue, Ev.
then also like if they ask you about a situation that's involving abortions or miscarrying. How do you feel about that? You know why? Because they fucking rights are getting stripped away to do that. So if you come out saying, yeah, make all these motherfuckers have children, oh nigga, fuck you. That's
time
but
out.
exactly how they're
I
thinking,
think
Yeah, I
I
get
which
think
that
is
the
now.
fair.
example that you
But
just
see,
But
now
that's
what we're doing is going into extremes. We're going to extremes.
It's not
but
it's
that's
not
an,
the
a
extreme
woman
though.
getting
That's what's
pregnant
really
is an
going on.
wait,
extreme.
hold on, because I may not think that I don't think that's extreme. I think the last two questions that you just asked is a decent middle ground. You having a general conversation about abortion versus you having a very specific, how do you feel about Megan Tory?
But
Having an
no,
overall women's
It's
rights issue,
completely
to
two
me,
different
like I think
things.
that's you know what I'm
those
saying? Like
aren't two
but the
different
other
things.
one has more the other one
Oh, I see
might
what you're saying.
have more of a ground to cover and allow investigation conversation versus in that specific issue. Because remember, Rose started this off with he's seeing things where they're saying, ask him about Megan Tory, you'll know everything about him. In itself, in that presentation, could come off as hypersensitive because now you are asking a specific
Because
question
I
on a
think
situation that isn't proven. So if you want a response to something that isn't proven, this is me. Like I said, I like to lead with something that we can have tangible and then get to the feelings about it. If you ask me about something that isn't proven, and
what's
then you're
not
gonna
proven.
base what that situation is not proven.
And see, and
Physically
that's what
with
Now,
will happen
facts,
at
it
it.
now,
is not
That is
proven.
exactly what
hold
will
on.
happen at a
Now,
table.
hold on, because
Bingo.
I
There
understand
you
what y'all are saying,
go.
and this also goes into the problem of the parasocial relationships because none of us know the X and O's of anything in that specific.
At all.
So I
And
understand.
that's what
So,
yeah.
but that's what I'm saying. That may be a bad example to use of saying because there's no way either me or you know all the X's and O's or
But
knows everything. But the
the
sentiment in
sentiment,
context of
The,
abuse
okay,
towards
Yeah, well,
women,
ask me about the
that's still
sentiment.
right.
there.
Don't ask me
But
about a
hold on.
specific
I'm
case that
really
you
scaring
said.
the
No, no,
niggas
no.
if I
Wait.
say, how do you feel about abuse? Like the same way you
Yes,
saying it. So
because
they got to wrap it in a bow. The same thing we said at the end of the last episode.
I don't know if it's necessarily a bow. And I'm only presenting pushback just for the conversation piece. Because for example, if the same way I just said, there's no way to factually prove that very specific thing, which is why it might come off as hypersensitive for you to judge my entire character based on that answer, is in the same context where in our last episode I said in the abortion rights, y'all don't believe in pro-life, you believe in pro-birth, and we had that whole conversation of taking away. So that Megan Tory answer did not show how I support choice.
but it's like he said he did it.
Huh?
He said he did it on the phone.
That's not what he said on the phone, but
I would have never did
okay.
that shit. I was just so drunk. What
That
else
could
would he
mean a
mean?
variety of things.
And
He
then
said,
he
"I
said he
wish it
didn't
never
do it.
happened like that." I
He
mean,
said, I wish it never happened. He didn't say, I wish I
yeah,
never did
he
it.
never said, "I wish I never did that." Like, and
Because even in that same
that's why
stance,
you shouldn't be having those type of conversations. Why? Because unless we're gonna sit down at a table on a first date and pull out some fucking court documents, we shouldn't even be having that type of conversation. But for
because
the
on the
sake
other
of
side,
us having this conversation, I understand that there are some certain things that it's like, all right, man, how do you feel about fucking reproductive rights? How do you feel about women pay? How do you feel about X, Y, and Z? Do you even see women as being fucking equal to men? All right, cool, great, fine, dandy. There are some specific answers that maybe people should have as men. If you are a person that is of of good standing in society
If you're a
that you should
decent human
fucking have.
being,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, there are
because
answers that you should have, but I don't believe once you make everything political, things that will become hypersensitive, especially with shit that you don't know all the answers to, would be a topic like that. And so now when I don't answer the way that you would like me to answer, now it's oh, you hate women.
But let me okay,
You
so
hate women.
let me pose this to you then. Let's say Shorty asks you that, you don't answer in the way she thinks is uh cool or
appropriate.
whatever, and then she says that you hate women. Is that somebody you want to be with?
See,
No.
can I
I mean,
answer?
the
Can I
answer
answer?
is
Can I answer?
obviously
I want to answer.
no, but that
No,
also should
wait,
not be the assessment that you're making.
wait. Hold on. I don't even have it. You know what? I don't want to take away from what you said, Rose. I'm not mad at that. It's not so much that that's the assessment that you're making. It's more on the side where now, because of the way that things function, internet connectivity, social circles, you run back and tell a whole bunch of people your opinion. And that hypersensitive moment has now described everything about me based off of something that was a feeling based situation. Like, for example, when I brought up to y'all how the word creep is used, you felt I did something. So if you feel that I did something that you didn't like, and it may not even fall under the category of that word, but we see how quickly, as soon as a screenshot comes out, as without context, as soon as a conversation appears, you now have that as a label, and you are trying to fight that situation. And I also want to be clear here. I don't want this to come off like we're just only focusing on men dismissing women's hypersensitivity, because hypersensitivity also applies to men too. There's some topics that
Yeah,
that I think
you
there's
red
just a
pill
few,
niggas. You
you know
red
what I'm
pill
saying?
niggas is
There's a
hypersensitive
few of
as a
you fellas where it's just
was
like
hypersensitive as a bitch. And
like
never mind.
you feel me? Like there's a few, but I do also want to ask a
You
question.
can say what you need to say, man.
Nah, just that shit weak, bro. Like if you a red pill nigga, you whack. Like you really a lame ass, goofy ass, boof ass. Like you need to go away and like work on
Because
yourself and get right with yourself. So you can go get
in
some
that,
women and understand how dope women is. Like that, it just is stupid, bro. Like y'all pay money for niggas to tell y'all how to get women from niggas who don't have women. Like
not only
what
that,
are we
before
doing?
I want to circle back to something you said earlier, Nick, but I want to add to what you just said too. If if you are in the position as a man to be hypersensitive about what women are trying to pose to you, and you formulate your social group amongst a bunch of dudes that are so quote unquote, like Nick said, telling you how to get women, and you pay money, and then you go to a party to be around people to tell you how to get women, and there's nan
There's
women in
no
sight.
women there.
You paid
Yeah,
It's
money.
never
I'm with
women
you.
there.
I'm with
You
you
know
with
Like
what?
that. So maybe
Really quick one
instead
off.
of
I'm gonna keep it clean. Can I keep it clean in today's era? There's a lot of y'all that are paying for bottle service in the club just to have 12 niggas stand in the circle with you, and then women. I don't know why y'all do this. Y'all go to the bar,
only
go to
women
the
in the
club just
section
to
is
have
the
a whole bunch
ones
of dudes
only women
serving
in
the
the section is
bottles,
the ones serving the bottles. What are you
and then they
doing?
leave.
What are
Right?
y'all
What are y'all
but
doing?
it,
doing?
Y'all
it
paid
works the
money
other
to
way
sit.
around too. And I'm not saying that that
Sometimes,
it doesn't. Like it does work the other
sometimes,
way
but
too.
What you
that's
mean?
just
What you mean?
that's one of my pet peeves. If I go to a bar or club and I see 12 dudes and not a single woman in sight, and y'all just dancing with the phone out, taking y'all Snapchats of more dudes over here, and that wasn't the purpose of why you went out that night. If you spent $300 just to stand with dudes that you could have did for free, you have an issue. That might be my hypersensitivity,
You
but it
better
is what
join
it
the
is.
Xbox party. Fuck that shit.
You feel me, bro? You did that from the crib, but I want to go back to something. What do you mean by giving niggas credit for being smart? Because I heard you say it, but we kind of ran
Like,
off with it.
oh, what I meant was like if you are smart, for lack of a better word, if somebody asks you, if like for me, if somebody asks me, oh, what's your thoughts on the Tory Lanez Meg situation, and it's from a woman, I'm gonna assume that she's coming from the space of supporting Meg, right? Now, that doesn't have anything to do with my answer, because my answer has to do with how I assessed what the fuck I saw. And in my assessment, nigga probably did the shit. I don't know a nigga that goes into court and doesn't say that he didn't do it when the person that did do it has immunity. I don't, if she did it, like, I don't, if that's what you're gonna run with, that she did it and you didn't do it, but you in comments saying she didn't do it, that doesn't make any, like, it doesn't make sense to me. So I don't have much of a like thing in that. But for the person that doesn't understand that or wouldn't see that, they would think you really asking them what they think about the case. And then if they just run from the Tory Lanez aspect, which most niggas is fans of Tory Lanez and shit, they just gonna jump to, nah, bro, he ain't do that shit. Niggas trying to take down a black man and da-da-da. And then it's like, all right, fam. All right, fam.
Okay, because two parts of it. Because you said that in response to Rose saying I'm smarter to not answer that question. You say you giving niggas credit for being smart. So I was trying to understand what that comment meant. On the other part is what I would like for all of us to get away from, that assumption piece, because you leading in with what you might have as your belief, right? The same way that you said that's what you feel. So when you're asking that conversation, we're trying to get into that investigation piece. I would want for us to stop assuming that people already understand what you feel like you understand, without having the genuine conversation to get to that point so you can confirm as opposed to assume on that. And that's why that question could come off as hypersensitive to me, because you're getting into something the same way that you were saying, and I'm not trying to rehash their situation. He lied, she lied. What do we do about it between us? How do you feel this conversation should have went whenever it got handled as a woman? And I could speak on it as a man. And then it's like, yeah, both of them are doofs in this situation based on the way that they handled it, whether they were trying to cover each other, whether they tried to follow up, whatever the case may be. Man, I hate the fact that this is a representation of what it looks like for women's rights, because there's so many other cases to where we could be specific, tangible, and actually speak on legitimate facts. And then now isolate, hey, buddy over there potentially hates women. Back to Nick's point. That dude right here, based on this case right here, potentially hates women, and we need to watch out for him. How can I do better by you? Because you and your dating process as a woman may feel uncomfortable by this tangible thing, and vice versa. Hey, as a man, I see these types of things. These are cases that we have live in real time. But that investigative piece, I think, where some of the hypersensitivity gets mixed in to conversation, is some people come in with, well, I feel this way, so a smart person or someone with common sense or someone with this should also feel this way too. So you know what I know without me actually talking to you to get to know about what it is that I think that you should know. Like that's how it looks in certain moments.
Yeah.
I
Real
think that we
quick, hold
went to
on,
that example too.
Ray, hold on, because I want to follow,
Go
I
ahead.
want to follow something up with that whole giving niggas credit for being smart. That's so. That's why women. Back to Rose saying, when you get into asking all these example questions, you scaring the niggas. They're scaring the niggas because they giving you credit for being smart to dodge. How do you feel about women's rights? How do you feel about abuse? They're giving you credit
That's a
for being
good point,
smart
too.
enough to dodge that answer. So let me give you an example to really get in between, so you can give me some real context on an answer. That is what was going on in that. That's why they do it.
Yeah, because it's
And
like, if I ask you straight, I'm expecting chameleon shit.
and
But if
let's
I'm
keep it a buck. Niggas are scared because they know they have to fucking answer those questions, and they know them answers that they have
But can they
will
not be scared
scare
because
the
they know you're
women.
going to be hypersensitive, especially when you probably don't know about the whole scope of the situation?
No,
I
because
mean,
they
we
judging your actions and reactions pertaining to what could happen to them.
And this is why,
And see,
and
and that's part of where we
Damn,
get
Nick,
lost in the
I
sauce
fuck
on it,
with you
because
because last
this
episode
this goes
I
back
got on you about
to,
that.
to how we started the
no,
whole conversation, which everything is turned political. And this is why they used to tell you back in the day, the shit you don't talk about is fucking politics and religion. But now, since everything is turned fucking political,
I never believed in that.
oh, I,
Like,
I
just
mean,
on
I,
a
I
in a
do,
personal sense, it's
especially
like,
in certain, you have to know your setting and you have to know who the fuck you're talking to.
yeah, for sure. I know it's a time and place for everything, but like, when we talking about people that we dealing with, I need to know your politics. Like, if you're gonna be a part of my life, yeah, I need to know your politics.
And
That
that's,
does
and
does that
that is,
mean does that mean we have to agree on every single politic that we talk about? No, but I need to know where you stand on certain shit. Period.
and that's
And that
fair.
go, you
That's
know what I'm
fair.
saying? So it's like, and
That's fair.
that's what they're trying to figure out in those
Well,
questions. Like,
you're
and
giving them credit too for being smart.
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and that's
or
where, because I think in that that's where I was going to give pushback to what Ev just said. Part of that, and them trying to figure that out, and I don't want to just put it necessarily on women. Let me broaden it
yeah,
instead of
because
just
this
that
is,
specific
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
question.
yeah.
Part of what is missed in this, and why as is normality offensive, is because the lack of understanding that someone else could feel on the other side. usually isn't taken into consideration.
So you saying like if somebody asks you about it, you like, oh, I don't really concern myself with that type of shit, and then they could take that to the extreme of
Oh, so you don't
whoop-de-whoop.
care.
Yeah.
So you
Oh,
don't care.
so you
You're
don't
not
care.
looking into
I
that.
get what you're saying. I get
Right?
what
And
you're
it's
saying.
like my man's. I don't know neither one of them. Right? To be honest, the second part for me is like I wasn't really listening to either one of their music until something came up on my Twitter timeline, and I'm looking at it, it's like, bro, I had to work today, right? I had to go home. I haven't kept up to it. I personally don't care. So you don't care about women? Like if that's the next question, whoa, it's not what I said. I don't care
I would
about
get
men.
if that's the next question, I would get out of there.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
But
if you can't answer that
You got
initial
to.
question, you do bring it back to the general because it's like, oh
if
damn,
they
that one
but
missed.
that's
Boom.
But
but that's the part. So going to
it
what
all
Rose
goes back to
initially
how
said,
we
the
started
initial
about
part,
the
the initial part of it,
hypersensitivity.
he's seeing it online, and they're saying, ask him about this. That will tell you everything you need
Yeah, I
to
get
know.
what you're saying. I've
That's
never,
it.
I've on dates, all that type of shit. I've never been asked no shit like that.
Me neither.
No.
But you were locked up before this whole scenario happened.
Yes, but I'm saying there's still, I was dating in Me Too era. What the?
No. But okay, why I said that is there's a very important reason, right? Because I also want to be clear. It's been like a decade since I've been off the market, right? The time that I was still
Congratulations, brother.
dating, yeah, the time that I was still dating till now, the
Everything's changed.
hypersensitivity wasn't what it is now. So as
I
time
was
goes along, it's become,
I was in
you know,
college. Trump won, fam.
I hate that for you.
Shit
I do,
was
bro.
everything was to the tens. Like so, and it's like, and even then, I like the most somebody will probably ask you is like, what you think about Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Type shit. And it's like, but most of the time, I don't, you know what I'm saying?
But I'm about to say, even
I don't know
then,
no
it
black
ain't
women for
like
real that
how
be
it is
rocking with
now.
Donald Trump. So that's not even
It's
really a conversation within our purview. But it's like you might catch, in passing or whatever, that might be that was the question though. It was like that was that was the one where it's like, okay, this
because
is the barometer I'm gonna use to see how this works. Like
yeah.
and that's why I'm saying it has evolved to where everything is politics. Because during that time frame, it
Because
was
of
do you
him.
support Trump or do you
because of
support
Because of
Biden,
him.
right? But
because of
it's
bruh.
I don't want to say it's fully because of bruh specifically, because we have seen
Because it's
how
not.
the pendulum swinging of
It's been swinging.
social topics has gone back and forth even before him. It's hit it, so it's been swinging to the extremes. Even
Laws weren't
Bush to
changed
a
with those back and forths this time.
Because
though.
it'll even
And
get
that's
to
why I say
something.
because of him.
Wait.
It'll
Hold on.
even
That's why I
get to
say
something
no,
as silly. It'll get to something as silly as this, like, because I've seen it. Do you still shop at Target?
No.
And if you tell somebody you still shop at Target, be like,
That's
wait,
going on
you
social media today.
you don't
That was
care
going viral
about
today.
X, Y, and
Well,
Z? Well,
even
Yeah.
no, maybe that's the
And
closest score to
but
me. How are you
eh,
making this about you in a
but that's the
fucking
thing.
struggle and a
But that's
plight?
the thing because I mean, because this is in a sense, it's like some people like I cringe when I see niggas with Starbucks cups personally. Like me personally, like if
And
I
I
see you
feel
with a
you.
Starbucks cup today, I'm like, come
That's
on, cuz,
personal
like
though.
what we doing? But I'm like I'm not finna pull up on you and whatever. But if I'm dating you and that is a real thing for me, like that's a real concern for me, and I'm pulling up like, yo, do you shop at Target? And you like, yeah. I might be
So
like, yo, so you don't
you
know
gonna
about
judge somebody about who they are as a
he
human being?
Peep what I'm
if
saying.
they
Peep what
shop
I'm
at
saying though,
Target?
because it's not about you shopping at Target. It's about there's this whole thing going on, and if you're not aware of it, that's one thing. But if you're aware of it and you're choosing to still partake, then it's like, okay, you really don't have like there's a certain back that you turn to niggas at a certain, but like you can be unconcerned or not concerned with what we have going on or what the plan is for change or whatever that is. And at a certain point, I can't be around that if I'm really trying to push that. You can't be around me.
Yeah, if you're
Like,
trying to put the line, whatever line that you pushing,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But that's in the context of what we talking about. It's like if you're dealing with somebody in that close quarter, that's a very valid question and valid discourse to have because that shapes a lot of how y'all will interact with one another.
I
really
don't
quick.
know if it's that,
Shout-
but at a certain point, it's like what hill you willing to die on? What is what you stand on? At what point is it like these are my non-negotiables? Because at a certain point with hypersensitivity, it does become like maybe I am tripping about Target. Like maybe they even know about Target, but this is the closest store to them. It would be a
Mhm.
high inconvenience for niggas to go an extra 30 minutes out the way. They not
And they
making
would.
a whole bunch of money. They can't get what they fucking need, and Target is the closest shit to them. At a certain point, I do have to say, why am I making this shit about me and how I feel?
Mhm.
Maybe this
That's
is the
fair.
most convenient
Be-
thing for them.
Not only
And
that,
that's fair.
and the other
That's
side
fair.
is if it's like there's certain moments where if you did care about the people in the way that you do, because a lot of this times it's always about I care for us. Most of the things that we're arguing about is like I care for us. I want us to be better as a
And
people.
niggas be
If
lying.
it and well, I
Facts.
wasn't gonna say that in
Facts.
Niggas be
Rose's
lying.
Facts. Niggas be
niggas
lying.
Yeah,
They
a lot
don't
of
be
shit be
caring.
but
performative.
They
but
don't
Like,
be
in
like
caring.
but
the book. A
in
lot of shit be performative.
Rose's point is like if it's that far down if it's that far down the line in the situation that he described and you really cared about people, you wouldn't take the time to be like, hey man, I at least understand. I get that, right?
I would
Because
try to. I would try to offer you somewhere closer to go. Like I would try to
but
give you a
if
dip.
it doesn't exist,
Something.
like say for example, if you strap for cash and Target just happens to have it beat by 50% over here, I'm not
No, I get you.
justifying because
I
there's certain
understand.
parts
I
where
understand. There's no way you can truly tap out of partaking in the industrial complexes of America. I know that. But it's like if you are somebody that's like keen on being like, no, I'm gonna do everything I can, then it's like if you have such a hard line that you don't give nobody no leeway, you're gonna have to go find a specific group of people to kick it with.
Oh yeah, I mean,
that's fair.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's honestly a point I was thinking about. I was
you
gonna
need to
say,
go
like,
find your echo chamber.
Wait,
For
wait.
life
sure.
I'm
shows
sorry,
you
Ev. Wait,
compromise is
Ev.
a thing.
Hold on a second. I apologize. I'm not trying to cut you out. I want to go back to something you said and saying that certain things came with the law change. I have pushback on that because there's certain pieces. There's a lot of pieces, not even certain. There's a large amount of pieces that eventually became political before the law change. For example, before he got into office, coming off of we'll say from the at least from what I remember, I can only speak during my lifetime. During the Bush administration, a lot of stuff was still taboo to speak about, had nothing to do necessarily with politics, at least blatantly in our face, right? With the Obama administration came the wave of what appeared to be to some people restricting speech. You can't say this no more, right? And it could be on parts of it is being progressive and moving forward with the times. Like, yo, that's messed up to say out loud. There's other parts of it started to show certain parts of hypersensitivity
Mhm.
because there's a factually correct thing that was said, but because you don't like the way that it was said, it was taken away. That's not a law, and that got started
Okay,
during that administration. So now the laws did eventually come, but as we got here, those things that were just conversation pieces had nothing to do with necessarily something that would go on a bill or an amendment or get passed. Now has become a part of those umbrellas. So I don't know if I might offer a little bit of pushback in the idea of it wasn't so much the lawmaking. I think the lawmaking ended up being in tandem with that because I might lean more on the side of internet adding to the hypersensitivity, social media,
That's where I go.
or the echo
see,
chamber
but no,
before it got to the law.
but when we were talking about politics and religion, we were also predicating that towards at the time still dating women asking questions. That's why I said
Oh
law,
no, but
because women's
because even
bodies and their rights was what the law changed up the hypersensitivity of those politicized things, abortion.
oh yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's what I
okay,
was referring
okay,
to when I said
I'm
that.
tracking
Like,
because we
like
did
in
say
the
at one
last four or
point.
five
Yeah.
years, these laws now think about it, literally these abortion laws protesting women's rights. That's what I was referring to when I said the law changing was what kind of endorsed in that because of Trump, because
Yeah,
he's
and
directly like take all this shit back.
You don't know.
for sure, and in the midst of this to
And I agree
wrap
with
it
what
up.
you were saying too, not to kind of like saying as if I was not. I
Yeah,
agree
yeah.
with what you were saying.
No, that's why I was asking because I know before that portion I had said I believe everything has been attached to a politic now. It doesn't even matter if it's a hard law or not. Everything has now became a genuine politic thing. I also want to add this really quick for those that are feeling away within your hypersensitivity, or maybe you're not even hypersensitive. If you want someone to participate in the movement, please don't judge when they got started agreeing with you. Just because they weren't doing it for as long as you were doesn't mean that they aren't there, because that's how you turn somebody away and then you lose them to the complete opposite side just that fast, right?
Facts.
Don't
Yeah.
let them
Allow
go through their
grace.
discovery process. and let them go through their growth process. And that's where I think part of that hypersensitivity has ruined so much progression, because you will shame somebody even when they do agree with you. Like, damn, bro, like like what do you want from them? But so within the subsect, that kind of goes into uh the next question that I have. And really quick, I want to end off on a tangent. State of California, whatever their high school UIL is showing an example of hypersensitivity. Shout out to Clara Adams, 16-year-old sophomore, won a track meet, and they took her medal away from her because she replicated an Olympic medal celebration away from the other kids. She won clearly. She was a favorite to win. Went to the side, hugged her dad. She's away from the athletes, and Pops brought a fire extinguisher and she blew it on her cleats to like show she was running too fast. And they stripped her of her medal on some bitch ass shit. They took her medal, man. Like, I mean, like hypersensitivity in that moment. She wasn't by none of the kids. The race were done. They just did their own video and then disqualified her from the next race of the 200, where she was shown to be the clear favorite in that situation, man. But my next question to y'all is, where is the line between understanding someone's mental struggles and holding them accountable for you?
Hold up, bro.
Yeah, that's a question that I have for y'all on our next pod. So for any of y'all that are listening today, tune in to the very next episode. That's what we about to get to. But
yes, sir. Keep it clean. One off. This has been a great one. Appreciate y'all boys for pulling up. Keep it clean episodes dropping every Tuesday. Keep It Clean podcast at Keep It Clean pod on Instagram, at Keep It Clean show on TikTok. Stay locked in. Keep it a buck. Keep it a beam. But most importantly, keep it clean. We out.